Alright, this video is an overview of Assignment 1. Assignment 1 is going to introduce you to using loops in your programs, for loops and while loops. You also will gain some practice using conditionals like the if, then, else construct, and you'll also be using randomness in your program. The assignment has 3 different parts and involves producing 4 different programs. The first program you'll be doing is called Double or Nothing. And the idea is you are in debt to some bookie and you want to see how many bets you need to make in order to pay your debt. The program Double or Nothing takes 2 command line arguments, X and Y. These are floating point values like dollar amounts. And you're trying to double your money, so you're going to be placing bets that are double or nothing until you have enough money to pay your bookie. So in this case, I'm starting with $100. I owe my bookie $1,000, and so I need to place 1, 2, 3, 4 bets. And once I have 4 bets, I have more than $1,000, or I have at least $1,000, so I can pay my bookie. Whereas if I only start with $13 and I owe $12,345.67, I need to make 10 bets. All right. Your program should also handle cases like these last 3, where you're placing very small bets, or in this case, you're starting with more money than you need to pay your bookie, so you can just pay them. You don't need to make any bets. Or in this case, you start with exactly the same amount that you need to pay them. These are kind of strange cases, but it's important to pay attention to such edge cases when you're developing software, because if you don't, you'll end up with buggy software that will crash. Don't get confused in Double or Nothing. Double or Nothing doesn't really involve any randomness, so you shouldn't be calling math.random or anything. We're just assuming you're winning every bet, and you want to see how many bets, what's the best case for paying back your debt. You do not need to handle things like invalid input. You can assume the person is going to pass in 2 good floating point values. Second program is pattern. Pattern takes 2 integer command lines and an M, and it's going to print out this checkerboard pattern. The checkerboard alternates between asterisks and periods. Each row has 2 times n, so n is this first parameter, so in this case 4. So you see in this output we actually have 8 characters. We have star dot, star dot, star dot, star dot. So we have 4 pairs of the star dots. And we have 4 rows, 1, 2, 3, and 4. But notice each row alternates. So the first row starts with an asterisk, the second row starts with a period, and then the third row starts with an asterisk again, and so on. And I can demonstrate it here. So pattern 4, prints that one. If I increase the second number, alright, I'm getting longer and longer output. I'm getting more and more rows. Whereas if instead I increase the first number, it gets wider and wider. And again, you need to pay attention to bad input like 0, 2, 2, negative 2. Both of those just don't produce any output, but they still work. Printing out 1 row with just one of the pair patterns, and so on. So be sure to test your programs before you submit them. Make sure they work, because we will be testing them to see if we can break them. Part 3 involves 2 programs. They're related. The first is Boy and Girl Java. It simulates a couple that's repeatedly having a baby until they get at least 1 boy and 1 girl. And it simulates this and sees how many times it takes to get a child of each gender. We're going to assume equal probability, so there's a 50% chance of a girl, 50% chance of a boy. And you should use a while loop to do this and just keep looping until you get one of each. And as as it involves randomness, if you run this program, you're not going to exactly get our output. It's going to change every time I run it. All right, sometimes it requires 3 children, sometimes 2 children, sometimes even more, 5. Got kind of unlucky there, and so on. That's boy and girl. Boy and girls is a more sophisticated version that takes a parameter that says, let's run a bunch of experiments to simulate couples having children, and we want to estimate the average number of children the couple would have to have, as well as the frequency of families with 2 children, 3 children, 4 children, or 5 or more children. And you can see the outputs here. We also want you to run an experiment by running this at different levels of t, so from 1 to what is that, about 1,000,000, and see if you can come up with a hypothesis of what the average number of children required to have one of each sex is. And you can see there's some possible progress steps, so you can copy your boy and girl to boysandgirls.java and make it more sophisticated for this version of the program. Finally, if you get those done and you have some extra time on your hands, as I showed you in the lecture video, you know enough now to make this zombie apocalypse game. And so if you're game to work on that, here's some information about the zombie apocalypse game you can make. Be sure to submit all 4 programs, and also be sure to include in the header of your boys and girls your hypothesis about what happens to this average as the experimental size increases.